Hello people of YouTube, my name is Brad. This is my channel Ambiment where I build and review a lot of 3D metal models. In this video we are going to open up and put together this Legends model right here. We have Bumblebee, one of the Transformers models. I've done quite a few Legends models so far. They are fairly quick and easy builds. They are on the easier side of things, not super easy, but fairly easy. The Transformers models, as far as Legends goes, are slightly more complicated with some of the added detail they've put in. Still though, fairly easy model to put together. Let's go over to the table, open up the packaging, see what's inside, and put this together. Let's open up the little Bumblebee Legends model. Little tap to get the instructions out of the way, because I found that they can sometimes creep up to the top and you'll tear them if you open your package the way I do. Inside we have 1.5 sheets of metal parts, lots of yellow there, of course, and our piece of paper for the instructions. Open this up, you'll notice it's a rather tall, long piece of paper. So I'm going to fold it in half so that we can easily fit it on the screen. I'll go over the instructions ever so briefly if this is your first model, so you'll have some idea of what's going on here. The instructions really aren't that complicated. You got the top quarter here is labeled as page 1. This is split up into quarters. And you've got a line drawing of the model. You've got a line drawing of the two sheets, and I'll grab the bigger sheet as an example, place them side by side. You can see this is a drawing of this sheet. All the parts are numbered with a little red line pointing at the part. You'll notice a few of these parts are colored in. Most of them are empty, but you've got like the purple and the blue. You notice there's 2 blue, 2 purple. They color in the duplicate parts because there are oftentimes parts that are the same on both sides, or more than one part that are same, rather than label each one and make it a bit confusing, which they did in some of the older models, like the tank models were confusing. They just label the one part, like this is labeled 3. This is not labeled, but they're both purple. They both look the same. Those are the same part. Part 3 is used in more than one place. Same with part 7 here, and I believe this is part 4. Below that, we have a sample part, looks like the back of the head, with the notation on fold lines, which are just pre-scored or pre-cut lines that make the part so that it's easier to fold, and insertion holes and insertion tabs. The tabs ultimately go into an insertion hole to hold everything together. Beside that, you have the legend with the blue circle and green triangle. When you see a blue circle at a connection point, for instance over here, it means to insert that tab in its slot, fold it over cleanly 90 degrees. Green triangle means to insert the tab and twist it 90 degrees, like here. Those are usually parts that are inside. They don't look as neat and clean, but they are a better connection, a little bit better connection. And there's a 360 view. Well, going back, there's a note about tweezers and needle nose pliers being helpful. We'll talk about tools here in a second. We have our 360 view QR code that you can scan, or just type in this web address. It'll take you to their web page where you can see the completed model that you can spin around on the screen for reference, because sometimes it's not clear how a part comes together, but if you can see the finished model, it'll help you with the assembly. There's a little notation about being careful of sharp edges, which occasionally occur, so once you're done with the sheets, throw them away. I save them because I sometimes do weird projects, but the metal can be a little sharp. Below that, you have the start of the assembly flow chart, starting with part 1. You find part 1 on here. It looks like that. You cut it out. This is part 1. If you notice the red pieces, sections that are highlighted, pieces that are highlighted in red, those are folding over. The arrow kind of indicates how. Fold over in that shape, this part curves. You have part 2 here with a little sub-assembly that in red shows you how that curves around. And then these two parts come together and connect with the twisted tabs, as indicated by the green triangle. You end up with this part. And then you slide over here and fold that down and end up with that. Jump down to the next one. You've got part 3, and it's a purple one, so there's more than one. I like the color. It finds it real easy. One of these two parts. Shape it like that. Bring it over here. Here's part 4. They attach together, so on and so forth. Once you've gotten to the bottom here, you jump over to this quarter, the page 2, and just follow along the arrows, doing the assemblies and sub-assemblies and putting this thing together. And you get halfway down, you jump down to this quarter, pick up where you left off, then onto this quarter, and once you get to the bottom, you are finished with your model. Let's talk a little bit about tools. The very basics of what you're going to need is a pair of tweezers and some clippers. The tweezers, you can do a lot of bending, shaping, twisting of tabs, folding of things over. The clippers are going to help you get the pieces out of the sheets cleanly and easily by clipping them out instead of trying to bend them out, which can cause damage. I've also supplemented my set with some precision tweezers. I have a couple of pointed ones here. One, I ground the tip down just a little bit to give it a more sturdy tip for tabs and twisting things, and then I have a precision flat set, and between all of these I can do a lot of bending and shaping and twisting. I also strongly recommend some sort of pliers to complement your set. I have some flat nose here that have definite uses. I have some long needle nose pliers for some of the longer pieces, and then I have some curved tips for grabbing things at an angle and bending them over. We've talked a little bit about some tools. We've got basic tools to get started, instructions, and 1.5 metal sheets. Let's put this together. There are different ways you can curve the part for the tire. I chose to use the tweezers to bend a little at a time. I checked the final position of this elbow piece before attaching it. I wanted to make sure I was facing it the correct way. The rounded end of the pattern on the back should face upward. I also checked the orientation of part 6. One side has 2 marks and the other only has 1. The side with the 2 marks faces forward. This piece only needs a slight bend. As with the other arm, be sure to double check that you are attaching the elbow and its parts the correct way. It is possible to get a couple of them backwards. I needed to switch back to the pointed tweezers. This is where I deviate from the directions a little. The door parts attach in a bit of an odd way, or at least a way that I'm not accustomed to. The first time I tried this, I followed the directions and failed badly by breaking one of the doors in half and needing new parts. If you add the arms and fold the sides in, you will have less room to work with. You will need to leave a gap between the two halves of the door or things will not work out right. I found it much easier to add these back pieces first before folding the sides down and adding the arms. I also found it easier with the second one to attach the single tab first and then work the double tabs into their place. I had much more trouble getting the single tab in after the double tabs were attached and secured. The legs are of the basic design for Legends models, at least basic since the Guardians of the Galaxy. Bend up the toes of the foot, fold up one side of the leg and push the side in, securing that tab. Then fold up the other side, push that side in, securing that tab. Next would be to fold the front side of the leg, but for this model, before you do that, there is another part to add on. I shaped the wheel on that part before attaching the first one, which was not the best plan. Attach the flat part first. Then, after you attach the extra part, fold up the front sides and secure it. fold down the wheel piece and shape that if you haven't already. And then fold the leg over onto its back and secure. The tire on one side did not shape as well as I'd like. I decided to leave the back of the head open a little to give myself more room to secure the tabs when I attach the top piece to the head. Get these front tabs into their slot, I had to push the corner of the side piece kind of out of the way and bend the wide center piece a little farther than its final resting point, to get the tabs into their slot and then shape things back into where they should be.